Hey guys, my name is Nithilan and I'm a second year industrial engineering student at the University of Toronto. And in this video, I'm going to highlight how we can use the best resources in each course to make an efficient and effective study plan by highlighting a common problem students face, its solution, and 5 tips to implement that solution. So before I can get into how we can do this, I think it's important to understand one of the biggest mistakes that many students, including myself, make at the beginning of the school year. In the beginning of the semester, we're given access to so many resources such as lectures, tutorials, office hours, and assignments, and what happens is that we end up trying to do all of them because we think we have to. And we're able to do this because during the first month of school, we really don't have any big midterms, big assignments to study for, so we have enough time. But the thing is, when midterm season comes around, it's super duper chaotic, and we end up trying to cut corners, skip lectures, skip office hours, and this really gets us to fall behind. And after we end up falling behind, it's super duper hard to catch up because there's so many midterms going on, and in the long run, what just happens is that we end up hating school and doing poorly on exams. We might think it's due to a lack of motivation or something, but honestly, I just think we have a limited amount of time and we just have to somehow manage it better. So how do we do this? Well, the solution to this is pretty straightforward. We want to only use the best resources in each course to save time while still studying effectively throughout the semester. But the hardest part about this solution is to actually being able to filter through all the resources you have and choose the ones that work best for you. And in this video, I'm going to help you do just that. 5 tips to choose the best study resources. So the first step in this process is to actually see what are all the resources available to us, and we're going to do this with what I'm going to call window shopping. Similar to how we walk around a mall and look at all the stores before we buy anything, we're going to look at all the resources available in each course before we actually commit to them. And no, this is not just looking at the syllabus or the course homepage to see what the professors are recommending to us. We're going to take it a step further. A shortcut to this is to ask upper year students on how they approach the course, any resources or tips they have for you. But if you're anything like me and you don't really know anyone in the program, then here's what you do. On the screen, you see different resources you can potentially use to do well in each course. I'm going to go through each resource and explain how we can window shop each one. Tip number 1, compare instructors. At the beginning of the semester, you either make your timetable or you're given one, and for each course you have an instructor, you know when they're teaching, and you know where they're teaching. When I took Calc 1, the mistake I made was I just blindly went to the lecture I was assigned to. And the thing is, my instructor wasn't that great. We never did challenging problems in class, so when I went to the midterm, I was so underprepared and I didn't really do as well as I wanted to. So what do we do if we're in this scenario? Well, if you only have one instructor teaching the course, then we have to somehow supplement this lecture content with some other resource, which I'll get into in another video. But if you're like me and you had other instructors teaching the course, you want to go check out how their classes are. And this is what I call window shopping lectures. Your university may have something similar to this, and essentially for UFD students, we can go to Timetable Builder and search up our course and see the different instructors, when they're teaching, and in what rooms. And after you've done that, you could also search up these professors on Rate My Prof or Reddit to see what other students think about the prof. And just make sure to be mindful of the fact that these are other people's opinions, and the opinions about instructors usually is biased based on the marks they got, so just keep that in mind. Now that you have this information, you want to see if you have any gaps in your schedule to go check out these lectures. You want to go to professors that you think that might be good, and you want to do this for the first 2 weeks of the semester. I know this seems like a lot of commitment, but trust me, it will save you a lot of time down the line. And to be honest, during the first 2 weeks, you don't really have practicals or tutorials, and you're not learning much new content, so you do have enough time to do this. When you go to these lectures, you're essentially just trying to compare the instructors and how they teach and see which one works best for you. Some of the things you should be looking at include if you're able to understand and hear the instructor properly, if the classroom is too noisy, people are too chatty, and most importantly, if the instructor is too fast or too slow for you. Right now, we're not choosing which one is the best, we're just window shopping to see what's available for us. Also, in regards to lectures, see if your instructors are posting lecture recordings on the course homepage, or there's lecture recordings from past years on YouTube. Because of the pandemic and stuff, there should be something online, and if there is, make sure to check that out as well. Lastly, make sure to see if your instructors are posting like lecture slides after class and how fast they do it and if they add any annotations as well. Because if they do, this is a really helpful resource for us to look at after class to solidify our understanding. Tip number 2, assess your TA. You want to go to your tutorials and see how organized your TAs are and how much content are you really covering. You want to see if the TAs are just doing a basic review of the content learning class, or are they taking it a step further and trying to get you a better and deeper understanding of the concepts. Also, if the TAs is doing a bunch of practice problems, you want to see how hard these problems are, how many problems are being covered in class, and if the TA is doing a good job explaining the solutions. So overall, if you find that the tutorials are just a basic review of the content, or just covering basic questions at a really slow pace, then I wouldn't really recommend that you go to tutorials, because at 1 to 2 hours of time is time that you can use to do more challenging problems and get a deeper understanding of the concepts. Tip number 3, attend even if you don't have any questions. Office hours are a great way for you to ask questions and clarify any doubts with your TA or a professor, and you want to make sure you go to a few of the office hours in the first 2 weeks of school. Even if you don't have any questions, because I know it's still the first week of school and you're not really covering much content yet, you still want to go to office hours to get a sense of how it's run. You want to see how many people are showing up, are you getting an opportunity to ask your own questions, and is the questions asked by other people relevant to you? Because if a lot of people are showing up and the questions being asked are irrelevant to you, then I wouldn't really recommend going to office hours for this course. But on the other hand, if there's no one showing up and it's just you and the professor or TA, this is almost like a one-on-one tutoring session and you never want to miss out on those. Tip number 4, see how relevant it is. Textbooks are a great supplementary resource for studying, and when we're looking at textbooks, we want to see how dense it is. Like how many pages in the textbook correspond to the content covered in each lecture. If it's a lot, it's not really feasible for us to read the textbook after every lecture, so we're going to have to rely on other resources to fill that gap. You also want to see how similar is the content covered in lecture to the textbook, and is the information in the textbook a must read. If the information in the textbook is irrelevant, there's no point in us wasting our time reading it. And if you go to office hours in the first 2 weeks of school, this is a great question to ask your professor. Do I really need to know the content in the textbook, or is understanding lectures sufficient enough to do well in this course? Essentially, will textbook content be on the exam? At the back of the textbook or each chapter, you'll see practice problems. There's probably a lot of them, and it's almost impossible for us to do all of them. You want to see if your course instructor is posting a list of suggested problems, and you want to get a sense of how many problems they're suggesting for you to do per week. For the first week of school, you want to try to do all the suggested problems to see how difficult they are and how long they're going to take you. After that, we can see how feasible and necessary it is for us to do all the practice problems. The key point I'm trying to emphasize throughout the video is that we can't do everything. We got to realize what are the resources we actually need and only use those to maximize our time. And also, make sure to start looking for solution manuals or solutions to these questions online, because you're going to need them. It's super hard and useless to do practice problems without having solutions to them. Tip number 5, don't just focus on the mark. Make sure to read the syllabus and see if there's any mandatory homework or assignments. If there is something like this, don't just treat it as, oh, I'm just going to get the answers from my friend, copy it down and get perfect. Actually try to do the problems and see how difficult it is and compare it to the difficulty of textbook problems. Because if you have exam style questions here, maybe you want to do these problems instead of textbook problems. It's important to remember that doing 5 challenging problems with a lot of critical thinking is way better than skimming through 50 easy problems. I think that should be all the resources that you should window shop, but if you feel like I missed anything, feel free to comment that down below. Now all we've done so far is establish all the resources available to us by window shopping and seeing what's out there. I know it's going to take a bit of time and effort, but trust me, it's going to save you a lot of time throughout the semester. And as you do more and more courses, you'll get way faster at window shopping. At this point, we can look at all the resources we have and choose the best ones for each course to study both effectively and efficiently this semester. And I did mention here and there of when I would use a resource and when I wouldn't, but that's not really enough. We had to take it a step further. We had to compare each resource in each course and see which one's better and choose the best ones to make an effective and efficient study plan. I know making these choices can be super difficult, so I'm going to be creating a bunch of videos to help you do just that. And this video was kind of like just part 1 of the Study Effectively and Efficiently series, which was kind of like the introductory step to creating a good study plan, which is to window shop and see what are all the resources out there. In the next video, I'll be looking at lectures and what to do if the lectures are too fast, too slow, the classroom's too distracting, and how to maximize the use of lecture recording. So make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video useful, and that way you don't miss the next one.